of a country. Am I audible to you?
Sir.
Okay, friends. Public finance. Public finance is a science which is also a branch of economics. In public finance, we discuss about the various tools of fiscal policy, financial administration of a country. It also deals with the public revenue, public expenditure, public debt of a government at various levels in a country. So, let me start with the this is now public finance. Today our topic is public finance, meaning, scope, and functions of public finance. So, according to Professor Dalton, in his book, Principles of Public Finance, he defined the public finance which is concerned with income and expenditure of public authorities and with the adjustment of one to the other. So, the government income, the government expenditure, the government debt activities, and other adjustment of the government are the subject matter of public finance. According to Finlay Shirross, public finance is the study of the principle underlying the spending and raising of funds by the public authorities. Public authorities means the governments at maybe central level, state level, or local. They spend for the promotion of welfare of the people. The governments implement various programs and policies. For the implementation of these programs, government incur expenditure. For this expenditure, the government has to raise funds through the taxation or non-tax sources. So, the public finance is the study of principle underlying the spending and raising of funds by the government. So, this is public finance. By this definition, we can understand that public finance deals with the income or revenue or expenditure of the government entity at various levels. So, in the modern context, the public finance has a wider scope. It studies the impact of government policies on the economy, the impact of government policies on the society, or political and economic aspects of the country. So, in modern state, the public finance operations play an important role in the economy of a nation. So, the functions of public finance. Here, we can discuss the main functions of public finance as follows. The allocation functions, the distribution function, the stabilization function, and the growth function. So the government, to attain the objectives of the country, the government allocate the various resources among various sectors and various sections of the society. So by allocating these resources, the government utilize the resources in optimal way for the promotion of welfare of the society. And the distribution function, the government objective or main aim of the government is to reduce the inequalities in the distribution of income, wealth, and others. For this purpose, the government can initiate some measures for the equal distribution of various resources. For this, the government take up various initiatives. And the stabilization function, to stabilize the economy, to reduce the inequalities, to implement various programs for the development of the economy, social and political and economic situation in the country. So these stabilization functions are initiated by the governments at various levels. And the growth functions, the government also initiate various steps or measures for the development of the economy. So the public finance deals with the financial operations of the public authorities. So the financial operations include raising of revenue, expenditure incurring and borrowings, both internal and external. All these comes under the subject matter of the public finance. So friends, the public finance deals with the finances of the public distribution as an organized group under the institution of the government. So the public finance is the study of revenue, expenditure, debt, and financial administration of the government. So the public finance in its scope, it has public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, and public financial administration, and stability and growth activities or initiatives. These are all come under the scope of the public finance. Professor Dalton classifies the scope of public finance into 4 main areas. They are public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, and public financial administration. And in modern state, we can also include this economic stability and growth activities of the government in the scope of the public finance. So friends, the public revenue, public expenditure, public debt. Here, what is public revenue? Public revenue or public income or government revenue refers to the income of the government. The government can earn income in 2 ways. From tax revenue sources. Second one is non-tax revenue sources. So the government can earn money income in 2 ways. Through imposing or levying taxes, or through the non-tax sources. Tax income is easy to recognize. It's a tax paid by the people of the country in the form of direct or indirect taxes. For example, direct tax is income tax. The sales tax and other duties, export and import duties, are the examples of indirect taxes. By imposing direct or indirect taxes, the government can earn money in terms of taxes paid by the people of the country. This is tax revenue. On the other hand, non-tax revenue, which includes interest income from the lending money, rent or income from the government properties or government institutions, donations from the world organizations, grants, fees, fines, estates. These are all the sources of non-tax revenue to the government. So the government, through the two sources of the revenue, the government can earn income. This income is optimally utilized by the government for the promotion of welfare of the society. So in this public revenue area, we study the methods of taxation, revenue classification, methods of increasing government revenue, and the impact and incidence of and effects of taxation on the economy as a whole. So this is public revenue. These are the sources of public revenue. Two sources are there: tax revenue, non-tax revenue. In tax revenue sources, the government can levy the indirect taxes or direct taxes and collect the money income from the taxpayers. The another one source is non-tax revenue. It may be in terms of interest from the income or income from the government properties and government sector units, or grants from the central government to the states and from the central and states to the local governments, estates, rent, fees collection and fines imposed by the government, and donations from the international organizations or other countries, or internal donations. These are all come under non-tax revenue sources of the government. So through these sources, the government can earn money income. The another one is under the scope of public finance. We can discuss another one is public expenditure. The public expenditure is the money spent by the government entities. So the government is going to spend money on infrastructure development, defense sector, and education and healthcare developments for the growth and welfare of the country. So here the government can incur expenditure on various developmental activities and various for the provision of infrastructural facilities, economic or social infrastructure facilities such as roadways, railways, transportation facilities, and information sector and power generation. And government also incur expenditure for the defense and for the promotion of educational facilities and medical and health care facilities for the people. Through this, the government tries to increase the growth of the country or welfare of the society. In this area, in this public expenditure area, we study the objectives and classification of public expenditure and the effects of public expenditure in different areas, and effects of public expenditure on various factors such as employment, production, growth, poverty, population growth rates, and the standard of living of the people. So here the government can incur expenditure for the development of the country or for the promotion of welfare of the society. All these items or all these activities of the government we discuss under public expenditure. Next one is public debt. It is also a part of scope of the public finance. Public debt means when the government expenditure exceeds government revenue, the gap is filled by borrowing money from the various sources. So if government expenditure exceeds public revenue, there is a gap between the expenditure and income. To fill this gap, the government can borrow money from internal or external sources. From internal means the government can borrow money from the Reserve Bank of India and internal financial institutions, or from the public. From other sources means external sources. From world or international financial organizations such as World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and other countries also. So these borrowed funds of the government are known as public debt. In this public debt area of public finance, we study the various sources of public debt, causes for the public debt, impact or effects of public debt on various fields or various sections of the people. So the public debt is necessary to fill the gap between the public expenditure and public income. So we can also discuss the methods of public debt redemption. How the government can repay the loans, whatever it borrowed from various sources. So we discuss the methods of public debt redemption. We discuss the methods to manage public debt. So next one, Nana, financial administration. As the name suggests, this area of public finance is all about the administration of all public finance. The administration of public revenue, the administration of public expenditure, the administration of public debt. So the financial administration includes preparation, passing and implementation of government budget and various government financial or physical policies. Under fiscal policies, we can discuss the taxation policy and other financial policies of the government. So in this financial administration area of the public finance, we study about the policy impact on the social economic environment or intergovernment relationships or foreign relationships. For example, according to 280 article, the National Finance Commission is constituted by the President of India to suggest some policies of financial administration. To, for example, for the division, for the distribution of financial resources or financial funds collected by central government or state governments by imposing taxes, these funds are to be distributed among the central, state, and local governments. For this, the policy or the method, the criteria, the principle these principles are made or suggested by the Finance Commission. So under this financial administration, we discuss various policies of government, which relates to the public revenue, public expenditure, and public debt policies, and foreign trade relations also. The another one is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy means it constitutes the allocation of various resources and the various measures taken by the government to attain its long-term objectives. So here fiscal policy measures employed by the government to stabilize the economy, specifically by manipulating the levels and allocations of taxes and government expenditures. So under fiscal policy, we discuss about the various policies of government revenue, policies of government expenditure, policies of government debt, and other policies of financial administration. So these are the scope of public finance. We can also discuss about the monetary policy of the government. The monetary policy is different from the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy deals with the public expenditure, public revenue, and public debt, and other taxation policies, and foreign trade relations policies. But the monetary policies which are taken and implemented by the central government of India. So here, friends, these are the tools of fiscal policy. Public revenue is a tool of fiscal policy. Under public revenue, we can say that the revenue in terms of revenue receipts are capital receipts. Under revenue receipts, the taxes, non-tax revenues. Under tax revenue, direct taxes or indirect tax, indirect tax policies. But under public expenditure, we can discuss this under the revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. So friends, these are the fiscal policy tools. One more thing is there, friends, federal finance. It is also part of public finance. The political structure of India is also federal. So the financial system is also a federal in character in India. In federal finance, we deal with the government of various levels: central, state level, local governments, union territories, which are independent of each other with the constitutionally demarcated functions. The Constitution of India provided the demarcated functions of central government, state governments, and union territories, and local governments. So these governments at various levels can act independently of each other. But here, under Indian political structure, which is a quasi-federal system, more state governments and local governments and union territories, they have to depend more on the central for the revenue sources. These are all these activities, all these issues we discuss under public finance. Okay, friends, under federal finance, as per the Constitution of India, which we adopted in 2020, there are union list, state list, and concurrent list. Hello. So, friends, these are the various functions of public finance. We already discussed the allocation functions, distribution function, stabilization functions, and growth functions. Here, there is a distinction between the private finance and public finance. We know that public finance is used for the benefit of the people of an economy, while the private finance is used for the benefit of an individual or his family. So the public finance is the government finance. The private finance is a individual or a personal finance. Here, friends, the difference between the public and private finance, we can discuss this difference or distinction through various issues. For example, the adjustment of income and expenditure. A government first prepares an estimate of expenditure, then means to raise that sum and the individual. But here the individual must adjust its expenditure to his income. But the government first prepares the expenditure estimates, then it raises for the funds. But in an individual, he adjusts his income, his expenditure to his income. This is the difference between public finance and private finance. And budgeting. While in respect to the public finance, the unit for the public budget is 1 year, but an individual needs not balance his budget during a given period. For example, the government prepares or implement a balanced budget or deficit budget. But in respect to the individual, it is not needed to balance its budget during a given period. So this is the difference between the public and private finance. And different objectives are there. An individual tries to maximize his satisfaction or profit from a given amount of resources. But the government objectives or the aim of the government expenditure is to maximize social benefit, not an individual benefit, not to get more profits from the activities. So the objective of the government policies is to maximize the social benefit. So in respect to the objectives of finance, there is a difference between public finance and private finance. And publicity of finance, the government budgets are published and there is a transparency in collecting 1 rupee or spending 1 rupee in the economy. On the other hand, the secrecy surrounds individual finance. So there is no transparency, there is no publication of financial activities or financial sources, resources of an individual. So this is the difference between public and private finances. Coercion. A government has to pass a law or compel the citizen to pay a tax in an financial emergencies period, while an individual lacks the coercive authority. So friends, here the characteristics of we can distinguish between the public goods and private goods also. Public goods are nothing but goods and services provided by the government. We can call them as social goods also. So the characteristics of pure public goods are non-excludability. Here, the benefits derived from the provision of public goods cannot be confined to only some people who have actually paid for it. So non-taxpayers can enjoy the benefits of consumption at no financial cost to themselves. This is known as the free rider problem. Free rider problem. So here, friends, the excludability principle is not working in respect to public goods or services. We can enjoy the road, we can enjoy the public parks, we can enjoy the services and other facilities provided by the government without paying tax, fees, fines. Everyone can enjoy. Everyone can get benefit from the public goods or services. But in respect to private goods, the benefit can be derived to a person who pays price or tax. Here, the excludability principle is working. Next, non-rival consumption. Consumption of public good by one person does not reduce the availability of a good to everyone else. But in respect to private finance, this is a contradictory one. Here, a private good or service has three main characteristics. Excludability, we already discussed that. In respect to the private goods, this principle is work while a person can get benefit from a private good who actually pays the tax or price. With respect to private good, one person's consumption of a product reduces the amount left for others to consume or benefit from because the scarce resources are used up in producing and supplying the goods and services. For example, if you order and then enjoy a pizza from a Pizza Hut, that pizza is no longer available to someone else. So this is the rivalry principle. Rejectability. The person who don't like to pay the fee, they cannot enjoy the services and goods provided by the private people. This rejectability principle is working with respect to private goods. Okay, friends, next to federal finance here. It is also part of, under the scope of public finance, we discussed the federal finance. Federal finance refers to the allocation of financial resources between central and state governments. So in the Constitution of India, it is clearly demarcated the functions, various functions of the government among various levels of governments. Various functions means legislative functions or executive functions and financial functions. The principles of federal finance. Here, friends, we can discuss the principles of federal finance as capacity, singularity or unity, economy, freedom, self-reliant, elasticity, economical conditions. Here, friends, the federal finance has various principles. Based on these principles, the government should follow all these principles by implementing various programs, by accepting or implementing budget policies for the development of whole economy. And one more thing, friend, we also discuss in the public finance that the role of state in economic activities. In all modern states, the governmental functions have greatly expanded with the emergence of government as an active force in guiding social and economic development. So, for example, in India, with a command economy, government has a vast range of responsibilities for many types of economic activities. So, even in the free market economy of the United States also, where there remains a much greater attachment than in most societies to the idea that the government should be only an empire adjudicating the rules by which other forces in society compete, some level of government regulations, such as the use of credit controls to prevent economic fluctuations, is now accepted with the relatively little question. So the government has thus become the major and even the dominant organizing power in all contemporary societies, irrespective of capitalistic, socialistic, and mixed economies. So, friends, the government role is gradually increasing in economic activities. The government should provide the services in a modern state. They are defense against foreign attack, internal peace and security, and protection of rights of citizens and justice, direct intervention in social services. Without government intervention, we cannot enjoy the social services like health clinics, parks, libraries, and educational institutions, hospitals. And in arrangement of public services, encouraging trade and industry, organization of labor, and proper use of natural resources, financial support and fiscal control, equitable distribution of income, and economic planning and implementing these economic planning in the economy, provision of employment. For these all services and goods, for the provision of these services, the government should intervene in the economic activities in modern states. Okay, friends. One more thing is there. We also discuss about the under the scope of public finance, we can discuss under the scope of public finance, we can discuss the principles of public finance. Under this, we can discuss the principle of maximum social advantages and the principle of increasing state activities. The principle of maximum social advantage is developed by Hugh Dalton. the British economist. According to Dalton, public finance is concerned with the income and expenditure of public authorities and with the adjustment of one with the other. Here, the principle of maximum social advantage is the fundamental principle of public finance. We also discussed this theory under public finance. The principle of maximum social advantage states that public finance leads to economic welfare. When public expenditure and taxation are carried out up to that point where the benefits derived from the marginal utility of expenditure is equal to the marginal disutility of taxation. For example, if the government incur expenditure for the provision of goods and services for the betterment of the people, the people can get some marginal utility from that expenditure. This marginal utility of expenditure, when it is equal to the marginal disutility by paying the tax to the government. If public pays tax to the government, they are sacrificing something in terms of money or in terms of other things. They are sacrificing. This sacrifice is also known as marginal disutility. When the marginal utility derived from the expenditure of the government is equal to the marginal disutility by paying tax to the government is equal, if both are equal, there the social advantage will be maximized, according to Dalton. So the Dalton, in his principle, which with reference to the marginal social sacrifice, marginal social benefits, he discussed about the marginal utility and marginal disutility. For example, disutility is nothing but sacrifice by the taxpayer. If a taxpayer pays tax to the government, he sacrificed something. It is disutility to the person. So the marginal disutility is also known as marginal social sacrifice. MSS. Marginal social sacrifice. Marginal social sacrifice refers to that amount of social sacrifice undergone by the public due to the imposition of an additional unit of tax. If a person pays an additional unit of tax, he sacrificed something. So this sacrifice is known as marginal social sacrifice. It is an additional social sacrifice by the public by paying an additional unit of tax to the government. So this marginal social sacrifice, when this marginal social sacrifice is equal to the marginal utility derived from the expenditure incurred by the government. Who gets benefits from the public expenditure? People or public. The public can derive satisfaction or utility from the expenditure incurred by the government on various policies or programs. So here the benefit or utility derived by the public is known as marginal social benefit. If the government incur an additional unit of expenditure, this leads to an additional utility for the people. This additional utility is known as marginal social benefits. Okay, friends. So the marginal social sacrifice is the amount of social sacrifice undergone by public due to the imposition of an additional unit of tax. And marginal social benefit is the utility derived by a person or public by incurring an additional unit of expenditure by the government. So every unit of tax imposed by the government taxes result in loss of utility. This is known as disutility. Dalton says that the additional burden, marginal sacrifice is additional burden resulting from additional units of taxation goes on increasing. The total sacrifice increases at an increasing rate. For example, if a person is paying a tax, the government is increasing the tax rates, so the total social sacrifice is gradually increasing in the economy. This is because when taxes are imposed, the stock of money with the community diminishes. The government is getting more money revenue or more revenue from the increasing taxes. As a result of diminishing stock of money, the marginal utility of money goes on increasing. Eventually, every additional unit of taxation creates greater amount of impact or great amount of sacrifice on the society. This is known as the marginal social sacrifice goes on increasing in the economy if tax rates are gradually increased. So here, friends, the marginal social sacrifice, when these marginal social sacrifice is equal to the marginal social benefit, there the social advantage of public finance is maximized. So here we can discuss this theory with the diagrammatically. We can discuss this also. For example, the maximum social sacrifice. When tax rates are increasing, marginal social sacrifice also increases. So the marginal social sacrifice curve has a positive slope, which upwards from left to right. And marginal social benefit, while the imposition of tax plus, while the imposition of tax puts burden on people, the public expenditure confers benefits. The benefit conferred on the society by an additional unit of public expenditure is known as marginal social benefit. If the government expenditure is increasing, the marginal social benefit decreases. So there is a inverse relationship between these two. So the marginal utility from a commodity to a consumer declines as more and more units of commodity are made available to him. So the social benefit from each additional unit of public expenditure declines as more and more units of public expenditure are spent. So if the government expenditure increases, the marginal social benefit decreases. There is an inverse relationship. The representation of this relationship between these two is shown by a marginal social benefit curve. This marginal social benefit curve downwards from left to right. So it has negative slope. Marginal social benefit curve has negative slope. Marginal social sacrifice curve has positive slope. These two curves, when these two curves intersect each other, their marginal social sacrifice is equal to the marginal social benefit. Okay, friends. So here we can say that the government is getting more, so the person getting equal satisfaction which is sacrificed by him. So here the point of maximum social advantage is where the two curves are intersect each other. So friends, here we can say that the point of maximum social advantage is at the point where the marginal social sacrifice cuts the marginal social benefits curve. This point is known as the point of maximum social advantage. So friends, here we are discussing about the principle of maximum social advantage, which was developed by Dalton. By and large, it can be said that the maximum social advantage is achieved at the point where the marginal social benefit of public expenditure and the marginal social sacrifice of taxation are equated, where MSB is equal to MSS. This shows that to obtain maximum social advantage, the public expenditure should be carried up to the point where the marginal social benefit of the last rupee spent becomes equal to the marginal social sacrifice of the last unit of rupee taxed. So these are the like this, the rupee spent by the government, the rupee spent by a public, through this, how the public get the maximum social benefits. So under this principle, we discuss the benefits or sacrifices of public finance through the taxation, through the public expenditure, through the public revenue, how one can get maximum satisfaction or maximum advantage through the activities of the government and people of the country. So, friends, according to principle of maximum social advantage, we can say that every rupee spent by the government should have increased the utility or satisfaction of the people. Every rupee spent by a public should be less, or the public can get some advantage from the rupee spent in terms of tax to the government. So, under the principle of maximum social advantage, how the preservation of community, how the improvements in production, how the improvement in distribution, how the stability and full employment can be achieved. We can discuss the benefits to the people and the benefits to the welfare of the society. So friends, here today we discussed about the public finance and the scope and importance of the public finance and principle of maximum social advantage. So friends, in the next class, we discuss the public revenue and various sources of public revenue and significance of public revenue, classification of public revenue, and the under the resources. For example, there are two ways of public revenue. We already discussed that. Under these two ways, one is tax revenue. Under the tax revenue sources, we discuss the direct tax and indirect taxes, and the canons of taxation. Some principles or criteria is there for imposing taxes by the government. These canons of taxation we discuss, and by levying taxation and by paying the tax to the government, there are some consequences in the economy. These consequences we discuss under the topics of incidence and impact and effects of taxation on various sections of the people, and on the production, on the distribution of income and resources, on the whole economy. So in the next class, we discuss about the taxes and sources of public revenue, and significance of the public revenue, and tax and non-tax revenue sources of the government taxes, and canons of taxation, and incidence and impact and effects of taxation. So friends, today we discussed about what is public finance, what are the functions of public finance, what is the scope of public finance, and what are the differences between public and private finance. What are the differences between public goods and private goods? What are the differences between sacrifice and utility derived from the public finance activities? So this is public finance, which deals with the public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, and financial administration, and stabilization and growth activities of the federal finance. Okay, friends, today we are ending this session. How is the class, Nana? Anyone can respond to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nana. I am requesting the host of this class to conclude this Zoom class today. Thank you very much, friends. We'll meet again.